Hello pandas! Want to make more money scrapping aluminum? Well, allow me to share my best aluminum scrapping hacks, the next in the Scrap Metal Tips for Beginners series. As always, if you're more than just a beginner, then please share anything I may have missed in the comments and I'll pin it. But for now, let's get into it. Aluminum, the most common metallic substance on Earth. The white metal is an excellent conductor of heat and electricity, and while eclipsed by copper in these properties, it is often a far more practical material due to being inexpensive and relatively lightweight. It is also equally non-reactive to water and doesn't rust, but is even easier than copper to melt, reform, and recycle. Combine these characteristics into one brilliant material, and it's easy to see why aluminum is the most common scrap metal you're likely to find outside of steel. If copper is scrapper's gold, then aluminum is your bread and butter. I've already covered the essentials of sorting and selling scrap metal in my previous copper scrapping hacks video, so if you haven't seen that one yet, I'll link it down below. It's got information on building a relationship with your scrapyard, how to negotiate for a better price, how to pick the best time to bring it in, etc. So in order to proceed efficiently, I'm going to assume that you've already seen that one and you've collected an assortment of aluminum. Now, because aluminum is such a common and practical material for so many uses, including automotive, construction, and electronics, it comes in many different forms, so sorting is the biggest factor when it comes to collecting scrap aluminum. But first you need to identify that it's actually aluminum. Now this gets easier with experience, but one of the best steps to doing that is the magnet test. Keep a magnet around so you can test and see if the metal is magnetic, because aluminum is not. If the magnet sticks to it, it's probably steel. Could be nickel or something else, but it's definitely not aluminum. So if the magnet doesn't stick, there are a lot of things it could be, but it's most likely either aluminum, stainless steel, or some pot metal nickel aluminum zinc alloy. The aluminum versus stainless steel comparison is a bit more tricky, but it's nothing you can't handle. The most common method here is the spark test, in which you take an angle grinder or a cutting wheel to the material, and if it sparks, it's most likely stainless. If you don't have that, however, consider this. Aluminum is much less dense than stainless steel, which means it's softer and lighter. So if it feels pretty lightweight, it's probably aluminum. And if you're not sure, take a hammer to it. Aluminum will be fairly easy to deform. Pot metal alloys, on the other hand, are also fairly easy to deform, and you're mostly just guessing at that point. Basically, pot metal is a blanket term for a bunch of different alloys that have a low melting point and are used for cheap, detailed castings. So if it's a cheap detailed casting, like a figurine or a faucet head, then just put it in a separate bin and call it zinc. Eventually, you'll be able to identify aluminum without any of these techniques because it won't be rusty, it'll be fairly lightweight, and most importantly, you'll know what it's used for. So you've got your aluminum. You know it's aluminum. Now you need to clean it. The price difference between dirty and clean aluminum is particularly harsh, and you get almost double if you bring it in clean, so you'll want to do your best. Sometimes, however, you'll come across pieces that you just don't have the tools to get every last bit of steel off, and there's no shame in that. You will have a dirty aluminum bin. The trick here is learning to quickly identify what that looks like and setting it aside. Spending time hurting your hands and chewing up your tools, removing half the bolts from a piece only to still drop it in the dirty bin is a real kick in the pants. Time is your most valuable asset, so don't waste it on stripped screws and sliced hands. Especially dirty pieces have their very own category called breakage. These are things like window frames that are covered in glue and wood, or entire engines and transmissions. It can suck knowing they could be worth a lot more, but sometimes it's nice to just pass on the hard part and get to the money. Now, here's a tip, or a hack if you will, that will definitely save some time. See, a lot of items, aluminum items, have these plastic thingies on them, and most of the time it's easy to take them off with a screwdriver, but it's faster and more fun to take them off with a bit of hammer action. Now, that's not the best example, because obviously I still need to take a screwdriver and pull the screws out, but it can help loosen them if they're really tight and you just can't get a good angle. Now, another one, this pan, I believe this is cast, not really sure. Yeah, pretty fast. Now, this one was really tight, so if I was having any trouble with that, it makes it easy to grab it with a pair of grips and just go at it like that. The other hammer tip is with cast aluminum. Cast aluminum is actually pretty brittle, so it's fairly easy to snap through with the hammer on its own. Now, right here, that's not a big advantage because this was cleaned before anyway, so I thought. But I'll do a video doing a barbecue, and that's when it really comes together. Just good to know. It's easy to break. Final point on cleaning is going to be oversized pieces. They'll ding you if it's too big, so if it's taller than you, cut it in half. Or better yet, fold it in half. As far as sorting goes, you'll want to call your scrapyard and ask how they buy aluminum, but mine has prices for litho sheet, MLC, 6061 extrusion, 6063, 5052, cast aluminum, old aluminum, aluminum siding, aluminum wire, aluminum rims, aluminum radiators, as well as oversized and breakage, and subcategories of dirty, painted, and clean for most of them. That's almost 30 categories! So you're supposed to keep 30 bins? Well, that's up to you and your volume, but the price difference between 6061 and 6063 is about 4 cents a pound, so I suggest streamlining it a bit. Here's my bins: extruded, cast, dirty, and other. Rims, breakage, and radiators don't really fit in a bin, so they're kind of their own thing. The key here is aluminum is easy to find and doesn't weigh very much, so the less time you spend fiddling with it, the better. Something like Venetian blinds take forever to cut all the bits of string out. I did it once, that was enough. I'll say it again, your time is your most valuable asset. I hope this has been helpful, so help me out by clicking the like button if you've enjoyed it, and remember to comment if you've got any advice on saving time with scrap aluminum. More scrap knowledge coming soon. So until then, leave it better than you found it, and keep doing the thing.